Hello, hello, hello. I figure I'd go live for a little bit, guys, and get a chance to chit chat with you guys and talk about yesterday. Yesterday, I kind of wasn't feeling too good. Sometimes that happens. I was planning on going live then, but I just wasn't able to at the time. And I kind of wanted to talk about my perspective and what happened yesterday 20 years ago yesterday. And I wanted to also explain about um some of you guys had seen my TikTok and a short here on YouTube, and I kind of wanted to explain that. Hello, Dustin. It's good to see you. I decided to do something that usually I don't do a whole lot of the trends, and it's because I'm most of the time not that great at it. So I figured why not do this, and this was a respectful thing, trend that was going on, and it was giving in solidarity a moment of silence. I done the moment of silence for me when they first were hijacked. What I'm talking about is September 11th, 2001. You know, America already knows. A lot of people around the world know. Um, four different planes were hijacked, and the purpose was to attack the Pentagon, believe the either the Capitol building or the White House, and then the World Trade Centers. And it was to make a statement. Um, they say it's Al Qaeda. I don't know, for sure who it was, but I know uh, there has been evidence it was considered part of what was in their mind an extremist thing, and it was considered part of their holy war. And definitely wanted to reflect on that, look back, and not only did that happen, there was also something that happened in 2012 on the same day. And it's something that I figure, talk about and reflect on um, all that. Now, that morning, I was supposed to be going to school. 20 years ago, I was 15 years old. I was a sophomore in school. And for some reason that day, I just wasn't feeling it. I just didn't feel good. I think it was sometime around the same time I started getting allergies, and I just wasn't feeling right. So I decided to let my mom know, hey, I'm just not going to school today. And so I went back to sleep for a little bit. I woke up and come in the living room. I remember sitting down and sitting there with the TV on, and it was on a special report. It showed The Twin Towers, it showed smoke coming out of the one tower, the first tower that was attacked. They were trying to explain, they seen what was going on. And as they were explaining what was coming in as far as reports, I saw it on live. I remember it was like an NBC thing. I saw the second tower get hit by a airplane just out of the blue. They had it on the screen, and of course um, they were really kind of everybody was shocked. I was shocked. I remember hollering for my mom because she was on the internet at the time checking things out. It was around the time that she likes to post blogs, back when blogs were seemed to be a little popular. And she's like, "What's going on?" And I was started crying and freaking out. And I said, "Mom, they're being attacked. What if they come down this way? What's going on?" I was freaking out. And of course, my mom tried to calm me down. We both sat there glued to the TV as we watched both the trade centers fall on live television. And they were getting bits and pieces of these reports. I remember seeing uh, at the time a news anchorman, Dan Rather, he had come into the CBS building and he was covered from head to toe. And they showed all the mayhem. It was just really dark. You couldn't see in down these places. And like my heart sank when I seen the trade centers go down. And then we got of course, on the news, they also had the report of the Pentagon getting struck. And then amidst all that, they started saying there was another plane that was kind of like suspicious, and that had went down in Pennsylvania. Hey, Florida, it is good to see you guys. And back then, everybody that is in America that was there 20 years ago will tell you didn't know if it was just those. We didn't know if there was more happening. And being in the country, and really the only thing we had at the time was the news on the TV. Didn't know what was going on. It was really probably one of the saddest days that I've ever lived through and had to witness. That's everybody asked, where was I on 9/11? I was sitting on the couch and at that time. Hello, Joy. It is good to see you. And I was a kid, sophomore in high school. And of course, kids, you try not to worry about things. You try to be a kid. You don't want to deal with adult things necessarily. And that threw me for a loop. And I thought, I mean, that was the scariest day of my life because we didn't know what was going on. And we didn't know if there was going to be more attacks. And I think that's what everybody thought. And right, Florida. I mean, my heart sank and I was bawling for the people that passed. The people that were in that tower. And for a long time, I hoped and prayed they would find some survivors and, love, light, and respect for all the people that done what they could, didn't have to be firemen or policemen, but they're included in this. All the first responders and the people that volunteered to try to help others get out as quickly as possible. Um, get as many people out as they could. Much love, respect, and prayers. Um, as bad as it was, and something that will always stay in the back of my mind on 9/11, I couldn't imagine being right there and having to make that split decision of what to do. And I thought it was really brave of those who decided to go back in, because I know there was a few people that were not firemen, policemen. They went in and helped other people um, to get to safety out of there. And I can definitely understand that, Florna. And because of what happened with America, I started noticing within the next 24, 48 hours, there were other countries that were, um, I consider it reaching out. I know the UK, Queen Elizabeth had asked for or said for um, the band, instead of playing the British anthem, to play the American anthem. And I started seeing where there were leaders of other countries kind of stepping forward and saying thoughts and prayers, and it wasn't just for the people that were from that country that were victims in this attack. They were also saying it, and it seemed, in my mind, it seemed really sincere that they reached out. Hey, Uber Goober, it's good to see you. That other countries would reach out and show unity in that. It blew my mind. Um, that even after what had happened with America, it seemed like a lot of restaurants closed down. The schools, if they didn't shut down, they didn't do anything that day. Either you were in high school and you were watching the TV religiously to see if there was any updates, or you sat there quiet, just stunned, trying to think of what was going on, because they didn't really have that much information at the time. I know I went back to school the next day, um, and everybody said we didn't do anything. Didn't have math, didn't have um, our reading projects that were due that day. That went out the window. Um, a lot of people I know in my graduating class, a lot of them were bickering and fighting before this had happened, but when this happened, we started I guess you could say, getting a little closer. We were more open for communication. We weren't, there wasn't like a lot of arguing, especially the next day. I think September 12th, it was more of we showed love to each other. Um, it was really kind of like a shock. We see and hear, we see these documentaries or movies about things that happened way in the past. And we ended up living a part of history that is in the history books now. And it just shocked me how we changed right afterward. We stood in unity, and a lot of us showed a lot more love. And it does put things in perspective. And like I said, my thoughts and prayers are with the families that still to this day have been affected by what directly happened with these attacks. And it just, it was a mind blowing thing. And I wouldn't wish anything to happen to anybody. It was such a horrible, horrible thing and that's what blows my mind even to this day. How could somebody hate, and how could somebody do something that devastating to another human being or a group of human beings? That has always been in my mind. Joy says, I was barely pregnant with our last baby, our son, and didn't even know it yet. But I was getting calls from family, your husband's sisters, everyone asking if I was watching TV. And didn't. Oh, it's okay, Joy. I greatly appreciate you guys being here. And then 11 years after this happened on 9/11, there was an attack on a U.S. embassy, which ended up several people have passed away from another attack on 9/11. Um, Me personally, I think there was things that were not to, serious enough to have these people that passed be more in a safety or safer situation, to be honest. But all in all, I don't understand how like I can never fathom hating somebody so much or a group of people so much to go through something that horrible. And I've always wondered that. And I've always prayed about it because I know I'm never going to get that answer. And because of what happened in 2001, a lot of people from my graduating class and the people that were in school decided to step up and to go into the military to do their part to help fight this kind of injustice, this extreme hate. And And because of that mindset, to help combat this whole hating situation, this terrorizing thing. Um, Somebody I know from high school in the military. I can't remember what branch now. Probably, I believe it was the Marines. Um, he ended up, him and his troop was in Iraq. They got cornered and were never able to make it out. And there's even somebody else that I know that was close to that person that never made it out of Iraq alive. He ended up being permanently disabled from an IED under the vehicle that he was in, and caused it to go his vehicle to go over a bridge, and he was the only survivor. He barely made it out of there. And it's very unfortunate that people with the good intentions ended up being the ones that made that ultimate sacrifice. And I'm very grateful that people decided to do that, to make that sacrifice for their country, to stand up for what they feel was right. And reflecting back from 20 years ago to now, there's been a lot of changes. There's in a lot of people's mindsets. And I will say there's a lot of people yesterday was making, and I believe these are people that were younger that do not understand what happened, that it was a real thing, that this actually happened. It's not a joke. It really happened. It You might think it's just in the textbook, but we the older people that are walking around on this planet live and can explain to you, each and every one of us can tell a personal story of that day, what they saw, what they experienced, and what they were thinking. And it's not a joke. And I do take offense to that. It's not a joke, guys. And I believe it's these kids that, like I said, they only see it as being part of the textbook, and it's not. It's something that we all adults have went through and had experience in some way, shape, or form. Their perspective of it, and I know, as sensitive as I am, and the people that I've known, um, that have been in the military and they came back broken, and um, I've asked a few people that came that were able to come back. I said, "Well, you would you have done it again if you knew that this would happen to you?" Didn't skip a beat. They said, "Hell yeah, I would do this again." What happened in 2001 was never right, and wanted to um, help fight for our country. And so they did. And they never second guessed being in the military. And hello, Mo. It's good to see you. Pam, hello. Yankee Cow, hello. But yeah, this was this was me. I wanted to reflect on back then and what it's like now. And it's, to me, it's like night and day. I get sad when I see a lot of politics and people bashing on politicians and all the politics on a day that we should all be, you know, my personal opinion, politics should not be talked about on September 11th. It really shouldn't, because what happened in America, it didn't just happen to one side or another, one opinion or another opinion. That happened to everybody. Hello, California Ford Raptor. It is great to see you, and I appreciate it. But yeah, I've had my experiences and the reasoning behind how I feel. I mean, everybody seen what happened. Everybody has their own perspective on it. I did get angry. I wish there was something I could have done. I wish I would have been able to go in the military, because that's what I initially wanted to do. But because of medical reasons, I would have not even been looked at for from a recruiter. I would not have. I've asked them. And part of it is because of my eyes and the fact I have asthma. I would have been too much of a liability. And they said I could have probably gone through boot camp, but I probably wouldn't have made it past the boot camp part. So unfortunately, wasn't able to get in the military, but reflecting back on 9/11, it also puts things in perspective, because nowadays there is so much anger and hate towards one another for our different views. But I've never seen hate or anger as much as I did on that day that America was attacked. And I will never fathom what was going on in their heads to do so. I know it was extremist. I know that it was extreme religious acts that were done. But to hate somebody that much, to hate a group of people that much, to attack in that manner, I will never fathom or be able to understand why that happened. And even today, I look as today as part of the reflection, because the next day after the initial shock and the the fact that we were still kind of on guard, but we seem to be more open to reflect and be able to start trying to figure out what happened the day before. I know kids in my school, we were all kind of like, if somebody was upset, everybody in the classroom, it was almost like a group hug type thing. We consoled each other. We made sure that each one of us was okay. Where normally we wouldn't do that. We would have some jackass decide to make fun of somebody, but we didn't that next day. Actually, for that whole week, we everybody was kind of like a lot nicer to each other in the school, and I'm very thankful for that. Yes, Mo, it is great to see you. And yes, I am reflecting back on 9/11 for me. Um, again, what I was saying earlier was I was at home. I was a sophomore in high school. I literally told my mom I was not feeling good and I stayed home. But I woke up around the time that it was right after the first uh plane had hit and it was on the news. But I'm just reflecting back and looking at it now. Um it really was hard, and it wasn't just hard for me. I know it was hard on everybody, especially the ones that lost loved ones during this attack. And I find it really brave that there were people that were willing to understand that um they were gonna stand up and fight, and they took down this airplane that was meant for either the White House or the Capitol building, and it crashed into a field. But yeah, I will never forget what happened that day. And because of what happened that day, several people that I personally know made the ultimate sacrifice to fight for their country. And like some of them that were able to come back said, and they didn't skip a beat, they would do it again. And nowadays, it seems like a lot of people have issues with police and um, government and just in general, nothing specific, you know? And back then, it just seemed like because of what happened on 9/11, there was more respect for the police and more respect for first responders, and seeing as how they saved lives. There were volunteers from all over the country that were firemen and officers and stuff volunteering to come up to help out with the efforts on recoveries, and just giving people that were had been there for a while a break. And it was just one of those things that I was like, I didn't expect it. I really didn't expect that, but I really appreciated seeing that. But yeah, that is me reflecting on 9/11. Uh, as hard as it was on me, I know it was harder on the people that were directly affected by what happened. And just looking back, there was nothing that, me as teenager could have done any differently to react any differently. And definitely something that was changed my perspective of the world. And with me as a kid, and even now, I always try to look for the good in everything. And the only thing that I could see as being any good was the fact that everybody came together. Even other countries stood with America. Um, you know, in a way, honoring what happened, and finding solace. Help. I was reading that in New Jersey there's a like a statue that was brought over by, and it was from Russia, and it's like a memorial gift from Russia to us. I re- I remember just reading that recently. Like I said about the UK, and I can't remember who else, but there were several countries that I know of had stood up and said something, um, standing with us, not only you know in sorrow, but they, because of what happened, it could have easily happened to anybody else. Hello, John. It is good to see you. But it is great to see you guys this Sunday. I'm very happy that you guys have been stopping by and hanging out. Um, but yeah, there's more. This day and age, and ain't like it was back in 2001. Yeah, we had the internet. Yeah, we could find news articles or whatever, but we didn't have YouTube. We didn't have a lot of streaming. I don't think. I don't remember a lot of streaming stuff. Um, we had something like Hotmail Messenger, AOL. We had what my mom had been doing at the time. It was internet blogging, whatever you want to call it. Um, there were chat rooms. It wasn't like it is today where you can see the news instantly. Um, Information comes in more quickly. Um, and it took a little bit of time before they kind of had all the pieces somewhat straightened out. And I agree, Florida. And that's the thing that I did a moment of silence, not only on my YouTube as a short. It was 15 seconds long, but on my TikTok, it was kind of a challenge, but it wasn't a challenge. It was to stand in solidarity, to pay respects for those that had fallen, um, the victims of that day, of that hate. And I did a video where it was just me. No music, no filters, no nothing. And it was just me and I did film 1 minute of me in silence to pay my respects, and I felt like it needed to be done. Not only to pay my respects to those that have passed, but also to say, hey, let's not forget what happened on this day. Yeah, Yahoo was about the gist of it between that and MSN slash Hotmail whatever. um that was about the gist of it. There was, I think it was called ICQ. That was like a big chatter thing. And I know, what else was there? We had AOL, MSN, Hotmail, Yahoo. And I'm wondering if MySpace was sort of like there too, but wasn't really used for that. Oh, that is so cool, John, and that is really really awesome that you wear that Ghost Dog shirt. Um, I am planning on trying to work with Ghost Dog to make some different merch, as he doesn't really do YouTube anymore. He's more of a supporter on YouTube, but he doesn't stream here anymore. So I'm going to have to work with him on possibly changing his logo just a little bit. And just a girl, hello, I am having a good day. Um, but yeah, today I wanted to reflect on yesterday, since I didn't get to go live yesterday and just sit down and talk to everybody. Yeah, I may have gotten of some of my information may have been a little bit off. I'm going by what I can remember, not by what is in the process of doing the research. And it's because I want it to be a reflection of what I can remember from that time. And I know everybody's perspective is different, and I know that everybody has a different story. I would love for people to talk about where were they on that day, and how did they feel as this whole situation started unfolding. What did you think? What was going on in your mind? And what you feel today, you know. And yesterday was a day that I won't forget. And like I was saying, there are people that think that were trying to make jokes of what happened. It's not a joking matter. Almost 3,000 people lost their lives that day. No way is this a joking matter. And I feel like it's a very disrespectful thing. And I've even seen where people were doing story times on TikTok, and the teachers are not actually teaching what actually happened. They were saying things in a different manner that we would know, that we know better, basically. Yeah, it was, what happened became very surreal. It was almost like I I knew what happened, but I didn't want to believe it happened. And it just became, you know, it seemed like for the rest of the time I was in high school, um, even though we still went to done our classes on that day and whatnot, we all had a chance to reflect on what happened. And I have a poem that I done not long after it happened. I have written a poem and I cannot for the life of me find it. I don't know where it floated off to. Unfortunately, it's either packed up somewhere or my mom's got it hiding somewhere. I don't know. It was really devastating. I was getting ready for work when I was told to put the TV on and watched in disbelief. And on the bus to work, I felt like we were zombies just staring into space. I think a lot of people, I think everybody in America was basically in shock. Everything was, um, it seemed like everything happened in such a way, it was just so surreal. And it was, you know, it's just a big shock. And I think everybody was just going through that. Plus, we didn't know if there was going to be other attacks, where there would be any other attacks. Nobody knew. And so there were people that were more anxious and more freaked out. And a lot of people were solemn and just like, what do we do now? You know, and I know my sister said when she was in school at the time, it's just everybody was quiet. All you could hear was the TVs going. You didn't really hear a lot of commotion and nobody really talk to each other. It was really, really strange seeing as how teenagers like me and my sister love to have a lot of chatter, love to talk. And as as teenagers, everybody was pretty quiet. Oh wow, just a girl. But yeah, the smoke and the debris, the ash, like it got so dark and it was a bright sunny day. I remember that. It was bright, even bright here. That's part of the reason why I woke up when I did is because the sun was up and shining on me. And I woke up and it was such a bright and shiny sun was just shining. And then on the news they showed where it had gotten so dark. People were covered in all kinds of ash from the building, and it looked like a volcano had erupted, sort of thing. And it was so different, like it was so dark. And it was heartbreaking. um Once people started allowing the emergency phone calls, the recordings of them and whatnot. And I'm just glad that they had the technology, um, even to have those recordings and to have saved them for the loved ones. Yeah, it was. you know, I'm just glad that things went pretty well yesterday with all the memorials. I didn't hear any bad news about those memorial things. So, but yeah, definitely just a time to reflect. Definitely a time to reflect. And as much as I want to think that the world is a better place now, sometimes I look at it differently. But it's always going to be a back of my mind that some doubt, because there's always going to be some kind of extreme extreme hate. And you gotta have that guard up. You don't want, you know and because of that, there are stricter, I would say a little bit more stricter now. We have Homeland Security, and Homeland Security probably, but amongst like the FBI, CIA, all that stuff, has helped probably stop attacks more than we know. And we would probably never know. And I'm kind of grateful for that it's like some things got buckled down and tightened up. Exactly, John. Like every year, it seems like I even to just take a second, even if I'm busy at the time, or I'm not thinking about it um at the moment, that more, not on September 11th every morning, I don't necessarily think about it. But sometime during the day, I sit, sometimes I'll sit in a little spot quietly, and I shed tears because I remember how heartbroken I was to see what had happened. And I'm never going to forget it. And I hope that there are people that don't look at September 11th as just another day. And it's a day that it shocked America. It hurt America. It shocked everybody. And the next day, like will never forget it. It seemed like the next day and the next few days, there was more unity. It didn't matter what you believed in, who you were, right, left, Christian, not Christian, whatever the case may be. It didn't matter. We seem to have done what we could to be united the next day. And I wish we could get back to that. I wish we could get back to disagreeing with somebody and just disagree, and not feel like we have to have a knock, people. It seems like nowadays people are doing the knockout drag out type thing. And looking back, you know it could have easily happened again. But then again, things have also changed with the way the US does things. And they do filter enough to where they probably thwarted plans of another attack a few times, and we would never know about it. UK, don't forget, trust me, not on my Facebook list. And, you know, some people it may seem like a just a regular old day. But to me and a lot of other people, it's not just a regular old day. It's a day to me to reflect on such a hard piece of our history. Exactly, John. And that was a really sad time too when Princess Diana died in 97. That was that was pretty hard and surreal, and it was definitely unexpected. But yeah, I mean, that's that's one of the questions I pose now. What how can we go from being unified to now being so disconnected and distant from each other, and like having to be on guard and argumentative with each other? Why can't we stand united like we did before 20 years ago? And I don't think I'll ever understand it, sadly enough. And I'm the type that I've always believed in compassion and in humanity. And it seems like nowadays I feel let down because I see a lot of things that I feel like, that ain't right. But then who am I to say anything? But I do feel disappointed because it putting things in perspective, none of that matters. To be honest, that arguing and stuff. But I agree, there was a lot of things that like I could say kind of shook a lot of people. But I think out of everything, 9/11 shook America pretty good. And the changes that have happened because of um 9/11, the choices that people made and the sacrifices they made, truly a hard experience to go through. There is so much divide. I agree. Why can't we be united on? I understand disagreeing. I understand debating. And I agree, Colleen. I wish it was more like what it was right after what happened on 9/11 because everybody was more concerned about each other as human beings, not all this divide and hating on each other, and it shouldn't be that way. And even now, I've looked back and I think, where did we get all this hate and divide? And it shouldn't be that way. And I think to myself, it really shouldn't be that way. But of course, who am I to judge? And hello, Colleen. It's good to see you. And I know the world now is different from the world then. Technology has been more advanced since then. And the way we interact with people has changed. Heck, we're going through a pandemic. And it seems like, well, I don't know how to explain it. That'll be for another time. But yeah, I'm even teary eyed thinking about it. How much different, like how much of a difference it was back then. And I was a kid. I was a teenager. And I know kids that were younger than me probably had the same kind of fear as I did at that time, that just on edge, wondering if there was going to be another attack. I still think that to this day, is there going to be another attack? But it's been so long that really we had the only, it's been so long that, like, I'm still not comfortable with it, but I kind of feel like agencies have worked on the stuff behind the scenes we will never ever know. I look back 10 years ago, I remember a few shows starting, and I miss silly times like that. Yeah, I think my biggest thing, kind of growing up, you know, and even into my adult years when I was working in healthcare and stuff, when they would have TV shows, you got time, you got the station, you got certain days that it started. It's almost like you scheduled yourself around those shows just so you could get to see it, and then get so ticked off that you got a cliffhanger. You didn't have anything resolved. You had more questions. And it's like, now everything's almost instantaneous. Not that 9/11 is still, the pandemic and mental health have caused massive depression in many. Yeah. And see, I tend to be that way. I will say I'm depressed. I've been depressed for a while, but I learned to live with it. And sometimes I have a lot of good days. There are times that I have bad days. And like, I'll give people fair warning. don't don't come near me. Today's not a good day. Beware. But yeah, with everything going on now, it's just its own set of problems. But it's amazing how, I still look at it today as amazing how America stood in unity. And like I was saying before about other countries, also shared their thoughts on what had happened. As sad as it was and how heartbreaking it was, there were other people in the world, and it wasn't just the United States, but other people, other countries basically felt the same way. Walking Dead. Drive people nuts. Yeah. Well, my depression's been most of my life. I'm not gonna get too into it, but yeah, and part of it is also what I explained in another stream. Some of my depression comes from having this issue with my eyes, this medical condition. It um one thing I didn't get a chance to say that there was a lot of adults with this condition have explained that their quality of life is not that great. Relationships with other people are really strained, and it does stem from having that issue with their eyes. Supermarket shortages, yes. I remember. Okay, yesterday, first time in forever, my dad decides he's going to pick up something from Pizza Hut, which, by the way, I would recommend if you think you would like the Detroit pizza from Pizza Hut. I would suggest you try it out for yourself. If you think you would like it, try it. But for the most part, was it worth it? Yeah, it was worth the $12 for the pizza for sure. But like my parents decided to go to um a Dollar General before they stopped over and picked up pizza. Well, they went into a Dollar General, okay? Half the time when they go in, they're looking for something specific. Let's say cat food or dog food or whatever. They go in, it's not in the shelf. And it's not just like the shortages coming from the shortages of truck drivers. It's also coming from the fact that some places don't have enough help or enough staff to be stocking up their merchandise at the same time they have somebody working, let's say, a cash register. Um, they may have some in the back. Sometimes they have to order, and it takes a lot longer for that order of merchandise to come into the store. And it is going to be a little bit slower. But I think more or less people are trying to stock up on certain things to avoid having to be in contact with a lot of people out, with I know with my parents, they don't want to be around a lot of people in stores. The smaller the store is and there's not many people there, the better off that they're more willing to go to that store versus, let's say, a Walmart Supercenter, because Walmart Supercenters have more people, and sometimes they have people that are not very nice. Not saying the employees, I'm saying the other customers who do not respect where some people are coming from with boundaries, distancing, and all that. Oh, wow. Yeah, they will raise the prices of things because there is shortages, which sucks. I can already tell you. um, I know things are going to be changing, and there is going to be some things changing. I'm hoping for the better, but there could be a lot of changes that are not for the better. But I'm just kind of sitting back and watching and seeing how things go. I loved going to Wilco's when I lived in England. Oh, wow. But yeah, in an area where there is shops, there is restaurants, but also there's, you know, a lot of times they have gatherings for different things. They had a hot rod and car show sometime last month, and after that there started being more spiking of the pandemic, the virus. So as of right now, every city that has a gathering here has to cancel their stuff for the from now until whenever they decide to change that. And a lot most of it is actually all of it was outside anyway, but having too many people in one area, they do not want a lot of people in the same area. So I can understand it. At least I don't have to miss something else like that car show. I wanted to see that so bad, but I'm glad I didn't. Hello, John. I greatly appreciate it, John. Welcome. Yeah, we were talking about September 11th, 2001, and I did say a little bit about what happened in 2012. Just reflecting back on it, my experience and what I feel has changed, whether it's good or bad. Hello, Donna. It's good to see you. But yeah, a lot of things have changed, and we're not in the same world as we were before 2001. What happened that year? We're not in the same world anymore, and it's like it kind of scares me in a way. I liked having grown up in the 90s where things were pretty down to earth. We could be outside and not have to worry about somebody coming up and getting us, having to worry about a lot of different things, having to make sure I had a phone of some sort on me. Um, Having to worry about who my friends were and their parents, and just being really guarded. I wish it was more like in the 90s where some things were a little bit lax. But of course, we are not in the 90s, we're in the 2010s. But yeah, that's just my personal opinion. Everybody has a right to their opinion. How you express that opinion, however, is it's different. I guess you could say the the way you come about expressing your opinion is what makes or breaks. Is what I've always said, and I've encouraged people. Hey, you have a right to your opinion, just like I do. So the '90s were awesome. Yes, I totally agree, Colleen. John John Shelton was in college in the '90s. Wow, I bet college life was different than what it was when I went to college. I was in college from 2004 to 2008 ish, 7, 8, something like that. Definitely a lot more classes than I expected. And I was going to more of a community college. I ended up, unfortunately, dropping out because I didn't have the energy anymore. Like I was doing college full time, I was working almost full time, and the working was to pay for the college, and it was just a big mess. And I was getting behind and I was getting frustrated, and I was like, whatever. So I kind of dropped out of college, but later on, I ended up doing a really cool job, done a lot of training for that. Just, it was being a caregiver. And I will never regret being a caregiver and having that experience. I agree, John Shelton. I agree, Florina. It was more laid back and the music was good. And I agree, we're just not used to it yet. There's a lot of things that are being downsized because there's not as many drivers, truck drivers to transport everything. And with the changes that are being made due to the pandemic, um, although I don't necessarily agree on some of it, that's going to happen and it's going to cause shortages. It's going to cause shortages from the manufacturing side to the transportation side to send it to the stores. And of course, the stores are going to have the same thing happen to them. So, but yeah, the '90s were pretty cool. I remember, especially the late '90s. '95 was probably one of the coolest years I had. I was about 10 years old, and I got to ride in the airplane for the first time with my grandfather. Well, I say he is my grandfather, but he is like a more like a step grandfather. But he was an awesome guy. He had his license to fly an airplane, and me and him went up for a few minutes in a two-person airplane. I think it's an NC Cub plane, but I can't remember right off the bat. but it was so cool, and it was so unique. I will never forget that. Much love to you, Colleen. Thank you for being here. A truck drive for 10 years. Oh, wow. JD87, welcome. Took the year off in 2021 with the unemployment money. See how that thing goes. I don't blame you for making those decisions. My belief is everybody has a right to choose, although it is pretty tough now with the um mandates and stuff. It is pretty tough. But I totally agree, to each their own. If you want to get it, that's cool. And if you don't want to get it uh vaccine, that's cool too. That's totally up to you. Oh, that's cool, John Shelton. But yeah, just reflecting just on it, just everything that's happened, it's just like a lot of things changed over the last couple of decades. Now, some of the changes, I would say at the time, seemed good, and it seemed cool, and it seemed to work out. And then other changes, I'm like, this is not right, this is not good. But that's my opinion. And it's definitely my opinion. Oh, and guess what today is? From what I seen on Twitter, today is supposed to be National Video Game Day. um, yeah, today is kind of where you get to remember a lot of video games and kind of what you know it also is a good idea with games. It helps get your mind off of things, and if you got a bunch of time on your hands, it does take up a lot of your time. uh if you wanted to think about it that way. But it's awesome to get those achievements, the whole shenanigans of what or the some of these video games have their own drama, I will say. If you can't get something right, sometimes it will cause you to get angry and have drama yourself. I know I haven't been known to cuss at a game before. They're funny. So take time today to play a video game, even if it's on your phone, any kind of game, to celebrate National Video Game Day. John Edwards says I was working about 200 kilometers away from home when it happened. When I seen it on the news, I thought it was a movie, but then realized it was the news. Yes. I think some people were just really in disbelief. I watched it unfold on live television. And of course, they they didn't really censor it. They showed it, and it it didn't scar me. It shook me to my core because I thought it was, my heart just, I couldn't not take it. I am a more of a sensitive type person, and seeing something like that happen in real life bothers me. I went to Disney World, but sadly not to Chuck E. Cheese. Now, Chuck E. Cheese, I've never been there. I've been to something else that is somewhat similar. Um, they had like a pizza bar or something, and they had a lot of games there. Ghouls and Ghosts on Super Nintendo. That's cool. One of my favorite games I used to play growing up was Zelda Ocarina of Time. Another one was Super Mario Kart. And then another one, and the last one was specifically for Super Nintendo, was Super Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars. Totally enjoyed that game. Definitely have a story to that game, but it wasn't until I was an adult before I made it through that game. I have Final Fantasy VIII. I've had it since it came out in 2000. I had it on the PC version of it. I had it on the PlayStation, and now I have it again on the PC. It's a um I have yet to beat it. I went further on this round of this game than I ever have before, and I'm looking forward to beating that game. All great games. Oh, that's cool. Thank you, Just a Girl. I will even be shouting at other people playing it on YouTube or the live. Hurry up. Lorna, I do the same thing. Donna's like, I love playing Pac Man and Mrs. Pac Man. I loved Pod. Chuck E. Cheese made me laugh and how bad it is. Not no offense to Chuck E. Cheese fans. Yes, Super Nintendo was the first console I actually my family ever owned. Uh, one year they had a sale on as like a Black Friday sale on Super Nintendos, and this was about the time I was 9, 10 years old that I can remember. I was about 9, 10 years old. My mom went to the Black Friday sale and got us a console. And of course, she wanted to play games with us. And unfortunately, it didn't kind of work out that way, even though sometimes we wanted her to. But she did try to play the game. She broke it out before she gave it to us for Christmas. And she even tried her hand at playing some games back then. Uh, Even now, she will play some. It's more like puzzle games on a computer, but they're considered still video games. I like playing Donkey Kong. Didn't have a computer back then. Yeah. It was nice to meet you, John Edwards, and I look forward to seeing you more. And I hope you have a great day at work. Don't work too hard. Donkey Kong is a good game too. I don't remember what. There was one game that I loved to play with Donkey Kong, but I don't remember what it was. And of course, gaming consoles evolved. They're still evolving to this day. And I think out of the Nintendo's uh line, I've had Super Nintendo, N64, I've had the GameCube, and the Wii. I've not had the Switch, although I would love to have it. And I've also had the Nintendo DS system, and it's like sort of like a Game Boy, but it had a dual screen thing. Love that game to death. I thoroughly enjoyed having that, and I'll always remember it. I don't know exactly what happened to it, but it's around somewhere, I'm sure. Somehow it just stopped working for me, and so I was like, okay. And we did have a PlayStation at one point that worked. It ended up getting corrupted and all that. Didn't want to work. I had an Xbox 360, which ended up with the red ring of death. um, Now I just have a computer to play games on. So, so pretty cool. But yeah, considering everything that, as far as today, it just, it gets overwhelming, but also it's not as hard as it was back then. Time tends to heal things, but also one of the reasons why I've stood up even today to say anything was because not only did I wanted to kind of pay my respects to those who died, I also wanted to also kind of explain this what had happened in 2001 was real. Everybody that went through uh, that that time has their own story to tell. Whether or not they want to say it, that's up to them. And it's not a game. It did happen and it affected everybody. As sad as I may get because of it, I'm just appreciative that I got to be have that actually have that experience of going through that, even though at the time I didn't think it was significant, but at least, and I will say, people that go through something that big will remember where they were at the time and why they were there and what they felt. Um, it's just like when uh, people that lived during the time of when there was the first lunar landing, that was a significant thing in their life. They'll remember where they were at. Most of them would. And then you've got these other big events that have happened in history could tell you where they were at Now, if they were babies, they wouldn't be able to tell you. But if you're old enough to remember, that's going to remain in your mind. Still have the PS2. Oh, that's cool. Yes, old gaming systems. I love my gaming systems, but they don't survive very long. I play them to death until they get like corrupted or something happens. It happens. Tonight and tomorrow night. Oh, that's cool, Donna. Yeah, 2001 is when the attacks happened. And then in 2012, September 11th, there was an attack on a U.S. embassy and people died. And the way I look at it was there were people that mishandled their part and helping with the safety of those people that passed. So there was actually two events that happened uh 11 years apart, but still both of those were major things. The thing that happened was Benghazi. I remember hearing about it, and I believe, working at the time. I was working in healthcare. I remember sitting down in my uh, I would say it's my room. At the time, it was more like a loft. I was in there chilling and I was winding down, and I remember reading about it. And I'm like, you gotta be, are you kidding me? And I talked to my mom about it, and she said, yeah, that actually happened. And I'm like, gosh. Benghazi was the attack on the U.S. Embassy in 2012. In 2001 was the World Trade Center attacks. That's what the airplanes hitting the towers. I was with my first husband. Oh, wow. But yeah, I remember both of those dates. In the 2012 attack, it was, I believe, coordinated. Somebody said it was supposedly coordinated with what happened in 2001, which I can't prove it. I haven't done the research. Like I said, I'm just going on stuff that I've been told, I have heard, I've experienced. So don't quote me on it, please. And but yeah, everything that has happened, that has come to happen, I'm hoping that there's a day where we can be like what everybody uh was like. It was more unified days after the attack, and I wish we could get back to being more unified. We should be able to disagree or agree to disagree without spreading hate and without all the kind of fighting that we are having. And it makes me sad that it's like that, you know. And unfortunately, people that are or at that time back in 2001, a lot of people were nervous to be around people that was the that believed the same religion as these extremists. People that have studied religion can hopefully back me up a little bit on this, but as far as I know, that religion does have about more about peace and love. The extremists took things quite literal and way too far. I was working in the hotels at the time. Oh wow. And I truly believe, you know, every religion is going to have somebody that believes a different degree than the next person. Everybody has their own perspective on things. But that was something that I had to be careful with. And I still have to be careful with now. I don't want people feeling like they're not welcome to come in to chat and whatnot. Like, I always have my guard up, and it's because of personal reasons, you know? But even then, back then in 2001, I was a little worried about this religion because I never understood it. It wasn't really taught that much, except it was considered similar but different to Christianity. And I'm like, how can it be similar? But we really never dove right into learning and understanding that religion. So when these attacks happened and this extreme stuff happened, I was like everybody else. I was scared. I was leery. I wanted to, because me as a teenager, I equated that religion with hate because of what happened. I didn't think that they had their own minds and they done whatever, that sort of thing. That was where my line of thinking was with that. But now, even though I still don't understand the religion, I've built myself up to be more tolerant of others than I was back then. Of course, everybody was scared back then. They didn't know who would be, you know, with that group or whatever. And I feel bad for those that had endured that part of it. I really do. And for those, if I said anything out of the way, I do apologize. I just, like I said, I'm reflecting. I'm more tolerant of other people now than I was back then. But definitely, wish that there was people, we would get back into being more unified and not this division and showing hate to each other. I really wish that would happen. Even if it doesn't ever happen, at least, you know, I'll do my part where I can. But I want to thank everybody for being here. I greatly appreciate you guys. I think I will jump off of here. And I want to thank everybody for stopping in, hanging out, saying hello. um, being part of the conversation. And I just hope everybody has a great day. And you guys always remember, you never know what's out there until you spread your wings and fly.